Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of FitRx. I'm your host, Dr. Greg Dennis. I think you're really going to like this episode. Have a very seasoned veteran here to talk about fat loss, Dr. Cate Shanahan. She's been around this field for a while. She is a leading authority on nutrition and human metabolism. She's a board-certified family physician. She has written several books, including Deep Nutrition, Food Rules, and the FatBurn Fix, which is what we're going to talk about today. She has worked with NBA teams, specifically the Los Angeles Lakers, creating their nutrition program. She is a director of metabolic health for ABC Fine Wine and Spirits. And so just very knowledgeable. So really excited to just pick her brain today. So, Dr. Shanahan, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for inviting me onto your show.
Yeah, well, so tell me first, I want to go back, how did you get interested in nutrition? Because they don't teach us that in medical school and definitely residency. And I kind of had to figure that out for myself. So take us back, if you will, when you discovered maybe the importance of nutrition and that maybe the nutritional guidelines that we did learn were wrong. When did that occur for you?
Around 2001, when I was sick myself and nothing was making me better. I had a mysterious illness. I could be on one of those episodes of Medical Mysteries. Because I couldn't walk. I had fevers and stuff, and nothing was making me better. I had surgery. Nobody knew what the heck was wrong with me. So I listened to my husband finally, who had been telling me for years that I was eating too much sugar. And he gave me a book called Spontaneous Healing, written by Andrew Weil. And in there, Andrew Weil mentions these essential fatty acids, like he's saying, we need essential fatty acids, which are polyunsaturated fatty acids. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't really remember any of that. And I had gone to Cornell for biochemistry. And I was like, what is this? Like, there's fats that are good for us. I thought all fats were the same. So it was like kind of like a little door that got opened in my mind about there's something more here. And I dove through the door and bought like another biochemistry book and started reading about fat. And I realized that like the reason that so much about nutrition that I had learned was seemingly not standing up to the biochemistry of what you would predict that which fats would be good. Like, we learned saturated fat is the unhealthy kind of fat, right? And like in Andrew Weil's book, he was saying that these polyunsaturated fatty acids, they're the healthy kind of fat. But then as I kept looking into it, I was like, wait a second though, but the polyunsaturated fatty acids are unstable. They do some nasty things like polymerize. They make floor varnish. In Hawaii, where I was living at the time, they didn't eat them. They used them to tan leather, so because it creates a nice lacquer on the surface. And so like the biochemistry of it just wasn't adding up to like these things are the good things. And then I was learning that saturated fat was resistant to this process of aging called oxidation. And saturated fat's resistant to that. And then I learned, well, gosh, people didn't used to eat these, polyunsaturated fatty acids. Those only exist really in factory-made seed oils to any degree, like to a high degree. And there are a few nuts and seeds like that, and fish and stuff. But we didn't used to eat this stuff. We used to eat like tons of animal fat and saturated fat. We were like saturated fat, monounsaturated fat. That was most of our diet. A tiny fraction was these seed oils, and we were eating a lot of seed oils. I found out, like I started looking at like the consumption data. I was like, how much are we eating? How much were we eating? It just wasn't adding up. So around over the course of about 2 years, I became convinced that I needed to know more about nutrition. And I started writing a book in 2002. I was just going to be about, don't eat seed oils, don't eat sugar and flour. It's going to be called The Amazing and Simple Diet. But then I started having these conversations with my husband, who was really into cooking and food. And we were watching cooking and food shows. And we were living in Hawaii, where people eat very different. Like we were living in the south side of the island of Kauai, which at the time was totally Filipino territory. And if you know anything about Filipino cooking, they raise their own pigs. They raise their own goats. They don't waste anything. They love every part of everything. They make goat head things and stuff out of hooves, and you know, there's so that was another part of the like message that I was getting, that there's a lot I didn't learn. And I was just fascinated with it. Like how is it that I had such a tiny vision of the real world of nutrition, you know, like it was just protein, carbohydrate, fat, don't eat too much fat, especially not saturated fat, calories, a few vitamins. You can teach everything that doctors learn about nutrition, everything that dietitians learn about nutrition. You can teach all of that in a weekend. You know, there's not much there. And then there was all this other stuff that people were doing in Hawaii. And I was living in Hawaii, and I had like this unique opportunity because of that. Because in Hawaii actually is the state where people live longer than any other state by years, right? So we have 50 states. The front runner is Hawaii. The average age was like 83. The second runner up was Minnesota. The average age was 81. And then like the next 20 were all within a few, like 81 and minus 2 weeks, you know, 80, you know what I mean? So we were the front runner by far. And we were eating the Filipinos, not me, the Filipino folks and the other people who had come from all over the world. Hawaii is a melting pot of Asia and a lot of like the seafaring Europeans, you know, Portugal, and Germany, people who were good on boats ended up in Hawaii. And they were just such a traditionalist way of eating. They so into traditional food. They didn't want to eat like, you know, they were cool on Spam, but other than Spam, they didn't really want our like American stuff, right? They didn't really have any kind of interest in it. They were really totally a throwback. So it was a window to 100 years ago. And not only was the cuisine different, my patients were different. And they were healthy. Like people who were 65 were able to, they were like more healthy, more robust, able to do more physical labor than people who were in their 20s who didn't grow up eating the traditional sort of stuff. So all of that together was just like a big, wow. I think we really messed up nutrition. I think everything I learned about nutrition in medical school was wrong and dangerously wrong. Like not just like, oh, well, you won't be optimized, right? No, you're going to be sick. And I was sick. And when I changed my way of eating, I got better. And nothing else, you know, fixed me. But then I could hike and bike and swim and do all the things that I kind of wanted to do on Hawaii. That's why I went there. So it radically changed my life, to radically change my diet. I started drinking raw milk. I had to ship it in from California. I gave up on refined flours and carbs, like I still ate like wild rice and beans and still had carbs. It wasn't like a keto thing. Keto wasn't a thing back then. Paleo, this was before paleo. Like this was before everything. And I just started feeling better. And then I was like, okay, well, my patients gotta know about this, right? Like the folks who weren't so interested in that, you know, the under 65s, a lot of them, they had grown up more on the Spam and the processed food and well, we didn't have McDonald's, I don't think, but we had like the more, you know, junk food sort of style of fast convenience eating. They'd gotten away from tradition and they had gotten sicker. So it was like I was seeing the collapse of human health within a few generations. And then it just everywhere around me, I was like, the same thing's happening everywhere. It's happening in my own family. My grandmother lived to be 103. She survived COVID. She survived Spanish flu. She survived the Spanish flu. I mean, she was a beast. and everyone in the younger generation, all of us either needed glasses or braces. Our physiology has changed and we're not as healthy. Like, I don't think I'm going to live to 103. I got connective tissue issues. That was part of what my problem was. All of us have health issues in my generation, and I'm older than like the younger, like my sister has kids, they have worse. So it's just like, there's this collapse. It's a profound thing that's happening. So I couldn't just write like a short little book about, oh, okay, so stop eating the amazing and simple diet. Didn't seem like it was going to really capture the profoundness of what I was seeing, and the profoundness of the dietary change and what we are on the verge of losing, human health.
Okay. And so was your first book, was that Deep Nutrition? Is that what it ended up becoming? Okay.
And that was actually first released in 2008. And so then it was re-released in 2017.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, kind of updated and coolified and expanded.
Okay. And then most recently you wrote the FatBurn Fix. That's the most recent, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So so let's get into that a little bit today. And I kind of made some notes here, and I found it interesting. You start off by saying what broke the fat burn. In other words, why did we quit losing fat? Because you say that the carbs really haven't changed much, but that the saturated fats have gone down, and of course an increase in vegetable oils. So I mean, you alluded to that a little bit, but talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because fat burn is a concept that no one else is talking about. And so fat burn refers to the ability to burn your body fat, distinguishing that from burning fat in food that you just ate. And if you can't burn your body fat easily enough, there's already a term for that. That's called metabolic inflexibility. So if you've heard of metabolic flexibility, the opposite of that is metabolic inflexibility. And it's not just talking about burning carbohydrates versus fat. It's talking really truly about burning carbohydrates from your last meal or whatever was in your last meal, and then easily switching into burning your body fat. And what I had discovered after understanding how vegetable oils build up in our body fat and affect our metabolism was that people were gaining weight because they weren't able to burn their own body fat anymore because of what was going on with all the polyunsaturates in the body fat from all the seed oils and all this toxic factory fat that we've been eating, and how that damages your metabolism and makes weight loss basically inevitable. Almost like very few people now can maintain a normal weight. That's why we have a minority of people who are now more normal weight. Minority, right?
Right.
I grew up in the 70s. We did not have a fat kid in school, not one.
Yeah. No,
I don't know about what your situation was growing up, but there was, like, if you saw somebody who was overweight, it was like, wow, that's really interesting, because you never saw it.
Right. So you're saying it's due more to this increase in vegetable oils, which are obviously found in processed foods. Can you hear me?
Yes, more so than any other single factor. Now, the carbohydrates and sweets, particularly sugar, play a huge role, because those have they kind of become the go-to energy source. When you can't burn your body fat and your body needs energy quickly, you're going to be craving sugar and flour, foods that are in these carbohydrates that are highly refined, because that gives you that boost of energy that you need, or your cells start to die in 6 seconds. So it's an emergency. So that's why people are gaining weight. It's really it's a simple concept, I think, but it's important because are you still there? Actually, I don't see you.
Yes, okay. I don't know I normally don't have these kind of technical problems, and the internet just said it went out. I don't know. It's really windy here today. I don't know if that messed up our server or what, but we're back on. I apologize. Like I said, I usually don't have these kind of technical issues, but we're on. So Go ahead. I'll edit all this out, so don't worry about that. But yeah, go ahead and on what you're saying.
Should I rewind to, or do you think you got it all, or?
Yeah, I think I got most of that. So I'll go on. So we were talking about the vegetable oils and that being very prevalent. And so you kind of start off the book in part one about achieve your true potential health, and you talk about the fat burn or the fat burning advantage, and so again, I think you kind of alluded to that, but elaborate on that a little bit more, if you will, about the fat burn advantage.
So if you can burn your body fat, if your body fat isn't full of PUFA, you can burn your body fat, and you can have energy on demand. Like, you don't have to be tied to snacks. You don't get hypoglycemia symptoms. You don't get brain fog. You don't get hangry. And I have come to realize over the past 5 years, basically since leaving Hawaii, that people are struggling with their weight because their appetite is totally addicted to these refined sugars and carbs because of that's the source of quick energy, because they can't get energy from their body fat quickly on demand. So it's going from that, like from that state where many people are now, like even thin people. I mean, you don't have to be overweight to have this issue. It's about the fats in your body fat. It's not about how much body fat you have. So I talk to lots of thin people who, oh yeah, I get hypoglycemia, I get hangry, and my doctor said just eat, snack on something, and that doesn't help at all, because the problem is your body fat. The problem is that your body fat is making you need more sugar than your bloodstream was designed to safely carry. So I don't know, Dr. Dennis, if you like ever diagnose people with hypoglycemia because they get hungry between meals, but that is so common. Like, I don't know if you ask people about that, but that is so common that they get hungry between meals, or if they eat lunch a little bit late, they fall apart. And that's a huge part of why people end up overeating, because you can't resist the donuts or the junk food in the food machine, whatever the thing's called, the vending machine. You can't resist candy when your body is starving for energy. So that's what the concept of fat burn is, to help people understand you need to be able to burn your body fat. And when you can burn your body fat, when you have that metabolic flexibility, you lose all that desperate hunger. And you finally have control over what you eat. There's no hope for having control over what you eat. I mean, no amount of willpower can sustain the drive for energy. When your energy is crashing, you're going to be what somebody described it as, like a zombie eater, or like, I'm just going to eat anything. I'm going to eat anything and everything until I feel better. And that's not something that you should ignore. Like, you shouldn't ignore that. You've got a problem. You've got an energy emergency. And we now know that those kinds of energy emergencies are associated with tiny strokes, right? Like, we've found that people who have tiny strokes are actually experiencing blood flow problems, and basically not getting.
Can you keep that door open? I keep losing internet connection, and I don't know. It must be that.
You back? Oh no, I can't hear you. Oh, I think you're muted.
Okay. I'm keeping the door open. I don't know if that's if that's what's going on. But anyway, we're going to have to do something about our internet. So so I apologize.
Do you want to just reschedule?
I think we'll see if it happens again. Yeah, but I hate to, waste more of your time. But we'll see if the door open will make a difference and if we can get through it. So I really apologize. But
because like you're cutting out, you're freezing a lot. So I have to wonder how much this is getting recorded.
can you hear me now? Are we?
Yeah, but I mean, as I'm talking, I see multiple times where you've frozen.
Okay. Since I just opened the door, am I still clear now?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I breaking up? Okay. Since I just opened the door, we'll see if that makes sense.
But every once in a while, so like right now you froze. Now you're froze.
Okay.
We were having internet trouble earlier.
Yeah. My wife's in the background saying we were having internet trouble earlier, so man.
You want to move to my office?
Let me I'm gonna move to a different office, and if that doesn't work, we'll reschedule, because I know you're busy too, so let me see if that'll make a difference. So I know there's a glare up here. But can you hear me?
Yep.
Is that clear right now?
Yep.
Okay, well, we'll go with this for a minute, and if this doesn't work, we'll do something different. But I'm so sorry, I don't know what's going on. But my office is way in the back, but normally it's not an issue. But I guess we've been having internet problems. The Oklahoma wind sometimes messes us up. It's really windy here.
Wow.
A lot of days, especially this time of year. But okay, well, we'll keep going, see if we can get through it. And again, I apologize. So okay, so in the book, you go into more detail about metabolic flexibility and all that. But for sake of time, I want to jump to how to fix this, because I think that's really what people want to know is how can they get to the point where they become more metabolically flexible and get to the point where they can burn their own fat. And so you have a whole kind of a part 3 in your book of the FatBurn Fix plan, and you mentioned 5 rules to fix your fat burn. So let's just kind of talk about what people can do to fix this.
Yeah, so the first thing that they need to do is they need to assess how well they burn their body fat. Because if you can't burn your body fat, then trying to lose weight and actually, watching those pounds go down could be something that makes you feel bad. And that will make you fail whatever diet you're following. And that can be very disheartening. So you need to know where you're at. And if you truly can't burn your body fat, then you need to focus on stopping snacking first. And when you do that, of course, many people do lose some weight. But the technique to be able to stop snacking, I don't tell people to stop snacking and power through your hypoglycemia. That's dangerous. I tell people, here's how you build a meal that will sustain your energy so you don't feel that drive to snack. And then I have in the plan, I have, here's how you're going to take this kind of, if you used to eat sandwiches, here's what you should have instead. If you used to eat power bars, here's what you should have instead. If you used to go out to eat, here's what you should have instead. So I try to help people create new breakfasts and lunches, especially that sustain their energy so they don't have to snack. So I have a lot more recipes for breakfast and lunch because most people don't, many people don't eat breakfast and lunch. They just live on snack food, which is horrible. Snack food is just totally processed. And they think it's okay because the snack food says low cholesterol, low salt, whatever. So therefore it's healthy, right? But none of that is actually a reflection of the nutritional value of it. In fact, usually it means there's less nutrition if it's low in things. So eating processed food for breakfast and, lunch and snacks and grazing all day, is a huge epidemic. That's just, I find that most people are doing that. And that's a habit that is unsustainable in terms of just health. You're just going to get sick if you're eating processed food. So I spent a lot of time teaching people how to make fast breakfasts and fast lunches in the FatBurn Fix out of real food with the kinds of fats that'll sustain their energy and the kind of carbohydrate that'll sustain their energy. So for example, eggs, great fat, very satiating too because of cholesterol. Butter, if you're going to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, just use maybe one slice of bread. Try to use sprouted grain bread because it's not refined. It's not made of flour. So it's not going to bump your blood sugar. And use peanut butter that doesn't have seed oils in it, which can be hard to find. So you have to look. If you have a peanut butter in your house right now, chances are good it's got some kind of weird oil in it. So you want to get natural peanut butter. And then instead of jelly, you can use like relatively healthy jelly, or what I recommend all the time is just putting some butter on there under that peanut butter because it tastes really good. Butter and peanut butter is actually really pretty tasty. And then maybe sprinkle the whole thing with a little cinnamon, right? So like, I'm just like, here's a fast, easy meal that like a 6-year-old can make. So you can make it even if you don't know how to cook, and tastes great.
Okay.
So I spent a lot of time talking about that.
I'm going to go back to something you said. So you said first patients need to be aware if they can burn their own fat.
Right.
Now we, as I'm sure you probably do too, we do a lot of labs. We get fasting insulin levels and things like that. And a lot of times in these obese people, those are elevated. But other than maybe having some hypoglycemic episodes if they don't eat, as you mentioned, what are some ways for people to know if they can't burn their own fat?
Well, what you just said, the hypoglycemia symptoms, those are extremely important. They are the best test that there is, actually better than a metabolic cart, because there's all kinds of flaws in that. It doesn't distinguish between burning protein, for example, and burning fat, but like the Lumen device. So that doesn't distinguish between burning protein and burning carbs very well. The only test right now is to get familiar with the 11 symptoms that I describe in the FatBurn Fix that are hypoglycemia symptoms. And you need to know what they are and if you're having them. And I also teach people, so for example, like one of these symptoms is having a headache, right? Now, headaches are common for all kinds of reasons. The key to understanding whether what's causing it, if it's related to being unable to burn your body fat, is, well, do you get headaches when you need to eat something? And are they prevented by making sure that you always eat something at a certain time? Another one is like dizziness and shakiness, right? Or anxiety, right? Even anxiety is simple. Well, people can have anxiety disorders, right? But you can also just be anxious because your blood sugar is plummeting and your body's pumping out a bunch of adrenaline, and that makes you anxious. And if eating something prevents or treats the anxiety attack, then you're not burning your body fat. So that's why I have like a whole chapter devoted to helping people understand on a daily minute-to-minute basis. They can decide, they can determine without doing any expensive tests whether or not they're burning their own body fat. And that is the most accurate test that there is. But you have to read it carefully and you have to pay attention to how are you feeling and make sure that you tie these symptoms to like when you have missed a meal, when it's been a busy day and you've been running, do you have these symptoms then? And are they preventable by having a meal that's more sustaining, where you have more fats in the meal? Or are they treatable when you eat something? That means you're not burning your body fat the way you should.
Okay. So you talked about kind of as a first step, eliminating snacks or maybe changing to healthier snacks. We talked a little bit at the beginning about more whole or saturated fats? I mean, are you an advocate of the keto diet? And because we talk a lot about that as a way to get their bodies, to learn how to burn their own fat.
So yeah, the keto diet can be great, but if you're not warning folks about avoiding the seed oils, it's not going to be very helpful. So, most people fortunately are looking for things that are like high in butter and high in cheese and stuff, but you have to watch the mayonnaise. You can't just be eating deep fried, KFC, right? You have to know what fat what type of fat you're eating. Because if you're just eating more PUFAs, then you can be in ketosis, but you're going to be metabolically still going downhill. There was a rat study that showed that they gave rats a high fat diet, got them into ketosis. They had plenty of ketones in their bloodstream, but they got sick. And this is one of the studies that the people who are against the keto diet use to say, look, the keto diet's unhealthy. Well, the type of fat matters. So I mean, the keto diet is a fad. It's a great fad, but it's not getting to the point, right? It's almost like a shortcut. I've been recommending it a lot because now that it's so popular, you can find keto friendly recipes very easily and people can follow it very easily. So it's almost like a shortcut to getting a little more healthy fats, but in and of itself, it's not the answer, right? It's not the end all be all answer. And you can use the keto diet, but you have to understand the bigger picture of what's really wrong with your metabolism. How do you mess up the keto diet? And honestly, do you even need the keto diet? Because you can do other things that get you into ketosis that give you more variety in your diet. So I do actually, in the FatBurn Fix, I say using the keto diet is one way to accelerate your weight loss. But if it's boring for you, then there's another way and you could just do that instead. And and I lay all that out as well. And that has to do with having carbohydrates that are more energy sustaining and doing more on the intermittent fasting style thing, which is back when I was a kid, we used to just call that not eating lunch. But now I call it intermittent fasting and they make it all complicated. You have to have this window and you get all these autophagy benefits and all this blah, blah, bro science stuff. I mean, some of it's true. Most of it's just like to sell the principle. But the point is, if you can skip a meal, then you're most likely able to burn your body fat. And that's a great way to accelerate your weight loss. But if you feel bad when you try to skip a meal, if you feel like, okay, I skipped a meal, but boy, I really need to eat something right now, you're not burning your body fat easily enough to make weight loss your primary focus at the moment. You still need to have that metabolic rehab happen. And you can lose weight, but it's not going to be a pound, a week. That I think is too fast for people who have a lot of metabolic damage.
Okay. And so and that may have been, we may have covered everything in that explanation, but what are the 5 rules to fix your fat burn? Can you list those out for us?
Yeah. So one is you got to swap out the bad fats for good.
Okay.
The second one is don't eat refined carbs, eat the slower digesting carbs. So, beans, the slow digesting, instead of rice, right? Something like that. Okay. The third one, I believe, is seek salt. Because it's a myth that salt causes hypertension. I don't know where you sit on that spectrum now, but that was like one of the things I had to solidify. That was definitely, one of those myths that doctors learn. And the other one's drink water instead of soda. And instead of a healthy snack. And I always forget the 5th one, whether it's because I was like, I only can have 5. What am I going to pick? Stop snacking, exercise. Those are both important things.
Okay. And so in the metabolic rehab, you have kind of the baby steps and then the accelerated plan. What is the accelerated plan, or did you already cover most of that?
Well, yeah. So those are 2 very, very important distinctions. The baby steps is really mostly about not snacking. So building
Okay.
meals that help you not have to graze, that help you not have to reach for that junk food, and planning meals, which is a major habit shift for a surprising number of people. A lot of people are just like, they'll tell you they eat healthy when they eat meals, but most of the time they're not eating meals, and so they're not eating healthy. Um, so that's a huge like segment. And then, so once you kind of master that, then you're ready for the accelerated phase. The baby steps are mastering the art of making fast, simple meals, not relying on snacks, just eating food again. And then the accelerated phase is now we can focus on weight loss, but you have to feel good when you don't eat. You're really ready to focus on weight loss and you can lose weight quickly. Then we can get you to that pound a week if you wanted to, which I still don't think is really necessary. But I mean, I don't think it's a great idea to focus on weight. I think it's really important to focus on how you feel, your overall health, what you're eating. I think the number on the scale can be a devil sometimes, and people can be doing all the right things, but the number on the scale isn't going down and give up. And I don't like that. So that's why I like to help people really pay attention to how are you feeling? Because when you're doing all the right things, you're going to feel good. And that's the most important thing. So on my website, I even have like a free quiz to download and figure out how well are you burning your body fat. That's going to teach you to start paying attention to the things that matter about how do you feel. But that the accelerated phase is, let's assume that you feel great. You know, you skip lunch and you have not the first iota of hunger. In fact, when you're really in ketosis in a meaningful way, you are going to feel better when you go 8, 9, 10 hours without eating than you do just after 4 hours without eating. Feel better. That's the accelerated phase.
What would you say is the biggest hurdle with people who may even they're on board with this and then they lose some weight and either gain it back or maybe they hit a sticking point and just can't lose anymore? What is the most common hurdle that you see that people just have to get over to either continue in their weight loss journey or sustain it?
The biggest hurdle is that they are not metabolically healthy and they just get so hungry they can't take just a few minutes to make a sandwich. They're just so desperate. They're like, I gotta grab whatever's in the cupboard. I'm just gonna grab some junk food, or I gotta drive through. Oh, the only place on my way home is the Dairy Queen. Like that's really the biggest hurdle is their metabolism.
Okay.
And here's how they think about it. They don't realize that's what's happening. They say, oh, I just didn't have time. And my question to them is always like, what do you mean you didn't have time? You had time to eat. How do you not have time? How do you have time to not do something? Like, how do you not have time to not do something, right? It should be less time consuming to not eat. So why didn't you just do that? And they're like, well, because I was so hungry. And so that helps them realize that, oh, their metabolism is still a problem. And that's where they just need to be like, okay, well, I need to come up with something. We start doing the troubleshooting. How come you got in this situation? And just basic like coaching at that point. But we're focusing on a little bit more, like a little bit different than your standard weight loss coaching. It's like more bigger picture of like culinary habits and like, do you know how to 20 ways to cook an egg that you like? Because eggs are fast. Right? That's why eggs are such a great go-to thing. And you see them all over fast keto recipes. Eggs don't take long to cook, unlike ribs or something like that. You have to slow cook those. That takes planning ahead. So, and we just have those conversations. They just need to continually build up a repertoire of stuff. And then they get bored. That's another thing where like, the things that I know how to do, I only know 5 of them. So I'm bored of them. Well, that's when it's time to come back and we learn some more.
Okay. So give us, if you will, so you've been, kind of studying nutrition for a long time, as you alluded to in the intro. So tell us maybe Dr. Cate's daily regimen. on what you eat and then maybe what your day looks like as far as exercise and nutrition.
Sure. So I keep it really simple. I love milk with cream, like creamy milk, grass-fed milk. So I can get some raw grass-fed milk. Tastes really creamy and delicious. And I have that with cold brew coffee. So it's basically like I have a milkshake for breakfast. And then I spend all day seeing patients or in front of my computer studying. And I take short little breaks to do little exercise videos, for like 10, 15, 20 minutes, multiple times during the day. I have a stand up, sit down desk here. So, and then I'll have a big, massive dinner because I don't eat lunch.
Okay. So you, other than the milk, you don't really eat much in the morning either. You skip lunch, so you don't eat much during the day. And then, so you're basically eating one big meal a day.
Yeah. So the milk and cream has a good amount of cream in it. So there's a good amount, it could be 400 or 500 calories there. But then
Okay.
I only have a calorie budget of around 1,500 to 1,600 calories because I don't do that much activity.
Okay.
And, I'm a small person. I'm not 6'5". So my dinner has maybe like around 1,000 calories.
Okay. Which that's quite a bit for one meal. So what does a typical dinner look like for you?
Well, last night we had kale and chorizo soup with homemade bone stock in it and tortillas, like corn masa tortillas with some cheese. It was really good. And I had a whole lot of that, like 2 bowls of that. And then I had for dessert, I have weird desserts. I have, so I really love cottage cheese. So I just get cottage cheese and I put some special things on it. Like I have candied ginger and I put vanilla on that and some nuts. And to me, that's like cake.
Okay.
And then I have like for another treat, I have kombucha, which is a sweet, bubbly, fruity drink, but it's naturally fermented. So it doesn't have as much sugar anymore because it's been fermented, and it has lots of B vitamins because it's been fermented. And speaking of fermentation, I also, for veggies yesterday, I just had kimchi. I have that before dinner. And I swear that stuff, it keeps me from getting colds and flus. If I have that every day, I knock on wood, I don't get sick.
Okay. Well, very nice. Well, I guess as we wrap up here, I always ask my guests if they could give us one health tip that could make us healthier today. What would you say to that?
I would say that you want to believe in whatever it is you're doing. Like it has to profoundly make sense the way a religion makes sense so that nothing can shake you. Because there's so many people out there that are trying to knock you off of your, pedestal of doing the right thing because they got something, quick and easier that sounds good. They want to sell to you. So
Okay.
you gotta believe what you're doing.
All right, very good. So your website is Dr. Cate with a C, CATE, drcate.com. And so they can find, I'm assuming, more about you and your programs and what all you offer there. And then also your books are probably there. I'm assuming they can also get your books on Amazon.
Yes.
So the one we've been talking about, and we didn't even scratch the surface, so I'd encourage people to go get the book, The FatBurn Fix. And then you also have the books Deep Nutrition and Food Rules. Any other way to get a hold of you? I mean, are you on Instagram, anything like that?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. It's all through my website though, like
Okay.
the Instagram and the Twitter and the Facebook and stuff like that. But I'm not a great social media person. What I'm really working on right now, like I get my head into these projects and I really can't focus on social media at the same time. So I don't know, I'm always doing a project. So like I'm on social media, but I'm working on a weight loss course that puts all of this together and kind of spoon feeds it to you and walks you through it by hand. So starting from, here's what you need to do to start with. Here's how you build a community. Here's how you detox your kitchen. Here's what you need to cook. Here's what you need to shop for. So look for that and sign up to my website, subscribe to my website because I hardly bother you about anything, but I will be making a lot of noise when that thing's finally available.
Okay. Very nice. And did I remember when I first reached out to you, are you starting your own podcast or are you doing the podcast?
Yeah, that's the idea.
Okay. And when will that be launching?
Hopefully, I don't know, like the first part of the year, but
Okay.
yeah, hopefully soon.
And what's that going to be called?
Probably think just deep nutrition because
Okay.
that's the name of my first book, and it's a philosophy. So could
Okay.
talk about it all day, every
All
day.
right. Very good. So be looking for that. Well, okay. Dr. Cate Shanahan, really appreciate your time and expertise on this. Again, I encourage people to check out her website, get the book, and appreciate everybody listening. And we will talk to you next time.